Welcome to the world of Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile. Oath was published by Leader Games in 2021, and in this video I'm going to cover some of the basics for how to play. Now I'm not going to go over every single rule, but ideally you're going to get enough information to have a clear picture of how the game works before you get to the table. I'm going to break things down into three different parts. First, we're going to take a look at the overview and goal of the game. Second, the different resources at your disposal, which are warbands, supply, favor, and secrets. And finally, we'll take a look at the 6 major actions that you can take during your turn. At the end, I'll recap how the game ends to give you a good sense on what to do with all of this information. To begin, Oath is a competitive board game for 1 to 6 players. One player acts as the Chancellor, while everyone else is in exile. All are vying for control of the Empire. It's the Chancellor's job to fulfill their oath to the people, indicated by this Oath Keeper title shown here. Perhaps their oath is military domination, achieved by controlling the most locations, or maybe it's holding the most relics and banners. It could also be achieved through a more economic victory by holding the people's favor or the darkest secret. Only one oath will be used in each game, and keeping it is how the Chancellor wins. On the other hand, if you are in exile, you have a few ways to win this board game. Your first option is to be better at keeping the oath than the Chancellor is. With the Oath of Supremacy, if you hold more sites than the Chancellor, you'll actually take the title of Oath Keeper from them. For example, as seen here, the Yellow Exile holds 2 sites, the mountain and the rocky coast, while the Chancellor only holds the plains. The Yellow Exile has now earned the title of Oath Keeper. When you become the Oath Keeper as an exile, you will take the Oath Keeper title card and replace your exile name with it. If you still have this title at the beginning of your next turn, you'll flip it over to the Usurper side. Hold on to this for one more full round, and you've won the game. Now, life as an exile doesn't mean that you have to maintain the path the Chancellor has set you on. Instead, you'll encounter vision cards which are mixed into the main deck. Now, these allow you to propose a different and perhaps better way to lead the people of this empire. These visions match the different win conditions of the 4 regular oaths available in the box. So, even only one oath is used in the game, the vision cards allow you to win with a variety of playstyles. Oath takes place over the course of 8 rounds at a maximum, but the game can be won as early as round 5 if you are the Chancellor, or even earlier than that if you are in exile completing a vision. We'll touch back on winning at the end of the video. So, now that we have a basic understanding of the goal of the game, let's see how we can work towards winning. In this section, I'm going to cover 4 of the main resources at your disposal. They are warbands, supply, favor, and secrets. First up, warbands. Think of these little meeples as your army. While they function to attack and defend much like your little soldiers in Risk, there are some key differences. As you build up your warbands, you'll place them on your player board, and then when you choose to attack, they'll actually attack from your player board. Each meeple gives you an extra attack die to roll when you choose to campaign and take something from another player. When defending, your warbands will add an automatic point of defense if they are being targeted in an attack. If one of your sites is being attacked, then you factor in only the warbands on that location. If your character is being attacked, you factor in the number of warbands on your player board. And if your character is at a location that is being attacked, you'll add in the warbands on the site, as well as the warbands on your board. So when you want to take locations or cards by force, warbands are essential. The second resource is supply, and it directly corresponds with the number of warbands that you have out on the board. Supply represents the provisions that are available each turn during your character's crusade, and you'll know how much you have based on the track at the bottom of your board. Your supply resets at the end of your turn during the rest phase, and is based on how many warbands you have available in your supply, or the meeples off your board. The fewer warbands in your supply, the fewer supplies you'll have because you need to keep your people fed and happy. On the other hand, if you haven't mustered up a lot of warbands just yet, you'll have a lot more supply to take on your turn using your actions. Every major action that you can take will cost supply, and we'll cover how much you'll need to spend for each action a little later on. When you do spend the supply, you'll just move this little supply token further to the right on your player board. What's really nice is that if you have any leftover supply at the end of the turn, that will more than likely get banked for your next turn. So for example, if you're playing as the blue exile, and you have 3 warbands out on the map, 3 more on your player board, that leaves 8 in your supply. At the end of your turn, your supply marker would normally return to the 8 to 4 spot, but since you ended the turn with 1 supply remaining, you'll actually bring your marker to the 8 to 4 and then over to the left 1 more spot for that banked supply. The third resource to cover is favor, and this is represented by these small coins. Oath uses a closed economy when it comes to favor, which means that the number of coins available is limited. If you want to trade with one of the 6 suits of cards in the game, you'll first need to look to see if that group has any money to give you. Additionally, if favor is ever burned for any reason, like the broken coin icon that you see on this card, those coins are lost for the rest of the game to everyone playing. War has its costs. Whenever you want to muster up warbands or take certain actions, you'll be spending favor on cards at the site that your pawn is at. At the end of your turn, these coins will then be removed from that card and placed in the corresponding favor bank for the suit of the card that the favor was placed on. Depending on the type of denizen cards out on the board, the economic state of these factions will vary from round to round and game to game. Favor allows you to build up your army, take unique actions at your site, and even recover powerful relics from the land, so having an efficient way of earning money is key in Oath. The fourth and final resource are secrets, which are represented by these fun little blue books. Whispers and rumors effectively serve as the second major currency in the world of Oath, but secrets have more longevity than favor has. As we just learned, when you spend favor on a card, those coins will then flow into the faction bank that matches the card you spent it on at the end of your turn. However, when you spend secrets, you'll actually pick those books back up at the end of your turn and place them on your player board, making them available for all of your future turns. You can temporarily trade secrets for favor, so having access to multiple secrets is helpful for growing your economy. Like favor, you can use secrets to activate abilities on cards and recover relics from the map, so we suggest you try and get more secrets when you can, and avoid burning off your last secret. Now that we know what warbands, supply, favor, and secrets are, let's see what you can do with them. There are 6 major actions that you can take on your turn, and all of them cost supply, so you'll have to decide what to prioritize. There's going to be a lot to cover in this section, but if you ever want to see what these actions are, they are listed on the left side of your player board. So before we dive into each of these, there are a few things about actions that I want to highlight. On your turn, you can take any number of actions in any order, as long as you have the supply to pull it off. You can repeat actions as much as you want as well. All of these actions are going to cost between 1 and 4 supply, but there are some minor actions that you can take that won't cost any supply at all, and we will cover those at the end of this section. Like many board games, Oath's cards will give you more options for what you can do on your turn, more actions. And I'm going to try to show you some of them, but there are 200 cards in this game, so a lot of them you're just going to have to pick up and learn as you encounter them. Every card is going to indicate what it costs to use it. So, now, with all of those disclaimers out of the way, there are 6 major actions in this game. You can search, you can muster, you can trade, recover, campaign, and travel. Let's dive in each one of these in turn. Your first major action is to search, which lets you draw 3 cards, pick one to play, and then discard the other 2. These cards give you options in the form of new powers, or perhaps even taking a card away that would be powerful for an opponent. Let's break this down into a few different steps. First, you'll draw 3 cards. When you choose on your turn to search, you'll have the option of picking up cards from the World deck, which is the main pile, or from the discard pile of the region that you're currently in. If you opt for the discard pile, this search action is always going to cost 2 supply. If you want to search the World deck, though, then the supply cost is going to change over the course of the game. Initially, it's going to cost 2 supply, but once visions are drawn, and remember, these basically are new win condition cards, the cost of searching the World deck goes up to 3 supply and eventually all the way up to 4, as shown on the tracker next to the World deck. The second step, discard. After drawing your 3 cards and deciding which one you want to keep, you'll need to discard the other 2. You'll discard these 2 cards face down into the discard pile of the region to the right of the one your pawn is currently in. So for example, if your pawn is in the cradle, you'll discard into the provinces pile. If you're in the provinces region, you'll discard into the hinterlands pile, and if you are in the hinterlands region, you'll discard into the cradle pile. The final step is that you will play your 1 card. Now you can choose to either play this card onto the site that your pawn is at, or you can play it as an advisor, which is the area to the right of your player board. Sites have a maximum number of cards that can reside there, and you can have up to 3 advisors next to your player board. Additionally, some cards have a tree icon, which means they can only be played at a site, and some have a blue person icon, which means that they can only be played as an advisor. If you play it on the site, you'll gain 1 favor, and anyone on that site will be able to use the power on that card. If you play it in your advisor's row, you won't gain a favor, but it reserves that power so only you can use it. Additionally, you can play the card face down in your advisor's row if you want to save it as a surprise for a later turn, or just bury a card that someone else would find useful. For example, you want to search the World deck for more cards. You take a look at the visions drawn tracker, and you see that 2 visions have been drawn so far, so this action is going to cost 3 supply. Once you've spent the supply on your player board, you're going to pick up 3 cards from the World deck, and you can take a moment to read over them. Now, 2 of these cards don't seem like they're going to help out your strategy all that much, but this 3rd card is from the Order suit, and it looks like it's going to be a helpful option. You pick the Order card and you place the other 2 face down in the Province's discard pile, since your pawn is in the Cradle region. The card that you picked does not have a forest or person locked icon on it, so that means you can choose to place it at your site or in your advisor's row. Since you think this power is pretty cool and would be handy to have, you decide to play it as a face-up advisor. The second major action you can take on your turn is to muster, which lets you spend favor for warbands. Mustering costs 1 supply and 1 favor, which you will place on an empty card that is at your site. In this case, empty means that there aren't already favor or secrets on the card. Place 1 favor on the card, and then you'll take 2 warbands from your supply and place them onto your player board. So for example, you're located on the mountain, and you want to build up an army. You decide to muster, spending 1 supply from your track, and then placing one of your 2 favor on the Taming Charm card that's on the mountain. You then take 2 warbands from your supply, and they'll go onto your board. Now, since you can take any number of actions and even repeat them, you decide to muster again. Once again, you will spend the 1 supply for the second muster action, and now that there is favor on the Taming Charm card, you can't muster there again. But the mountain has this Tinker's Fair card, so you'll be able to place 1 favor on that and gain 2 more warbands. Warbands are extremely useful because they give you the option to attack other players while also defending what you own. The third major action is to trade, which lets you trade favor for secrets or vice versa. And the cards in your advisors row will determine how much you earn in the trade. Trading will always cost 1 supply. Let's break this down between the 2 different types of trades. First, if you want to trade to get favor, you'll spend 1 secret and place it on an empty card that's located at your site. You'll take 1 favor from the favor bank that matches the suit of the card that you traded with, and then you'll earn another favor for every card with the matching suit in your advisor's row. If there isn't any favor in that suit's favor bank, then you won't want to trade because it won't do anything for you. For example, you decide to trade for favor, and you place 1 secret on the Old Oak card at your site. The card you placed the secret on is Beast, so you'll first grab your automatic favor from the Beast favor bank. Next, since you have a card with the Beast suit in your advisor's row, you'll get to grab an extra favor from the Beast bank. The second type of trade is to earn secrets. This process is similar, but a bit harder to pull off. First, you need to spend 2 favor and place it on an empty card on your site. You'll earn 1 secret for each advisor you have that matches the suit of the card you traded with. It needs to match to earn any secret, so if you don't have a matching advisor, you won't want to trade. So for example, you decide to trade for secrets and you place 2 favor on the Old Oak card at your site. The card you placed on is the Beast suit, and you have 1 Beast advisor, so you'll earn a total of 1 secret for the trade. If you have multiple advisors with matching suits next to your player board, you can set yourself up for a pretty good trade. But remember that if you were trading to get favor, that suit needs to have favor in the bank to actually take. So your opponents might decide to make your life harder by cleaning them all out. Since a lot of what you do in Oath will require favor and secrets, efficiently trading for what you need is an important skill to master. The fourth major action you can take on your turn is to recover, which allows you to take control over a face-down relic at your site, or a banner. Relics and banners give you strong powers that can help you toward a victory that requires holding the most of those specific items. The recover action will cost you 1 supply to perform. Once you've paid your 1 supply, you'll choose what you want to recover. If it is a face-down relic at your site, you'll pay the recovery cost in favors and secrets listed on the site that your pawn is on. For example, you choose to recover the face-down relic at the mountain site. You pay your 1 supply, and then the recovery cost as seen on the mountain site, which is to burn 2 favor, making that favor unavailable for the rest of the game. Then you'll take the relic, turn it face up, and place it near your player board. There is no maximum to the number of relics that you can hold. If you are wanting to recover a banner, you'll need to spend more of the resource associated with that banner than the number that is currently on it. You'll spend favor for the banner of the people's favor, and secrets for the banner of the darkest secret. You could compare the rough idea of these to the largest army or longest road cards in Settlers of Catan. When you take the people's favor banner, you'll place all of the favor you spent on it, and then you'll take that favor that used to be on it and return it to the 6 favor banks on the map 1 by 1, left to right, and you'll pick where to begin. So for example, you choose to recover the people's favor banner, which is currently held by no one. It starts the game uncontrolled and with 1 favor placed on it during setup. Once you've spent your 1 supply for the recover action, you'll need to place 2 favor from your player board onto the banner, and then take the 1 favor that used to be on it and place it on any of the favor banks. When you want to take the Darkest Secret banner, you'll have to place all of the secrets you spent to recover it on the banner itself. Then you'll give all of the secrets that used to be on it back to the player you took it from, except you get to keep one of those secrets for yourself. There are some extra conditions for how you can take this banner, but they get a little too in the weeds for this video. The 5th major action is to campaign, and this lets you use your warbands to try and take control over a variety of things. It costs 2 supply each time you want to campaign, although you can choose multiple targets during the attack. So let's break this down into a few different steps. First, you'll decide who you are attacking. It could be another player that either controls the site that you're on, or simply another player who is at the same site as you. Second, you're going to declare your targets. Like I mentioned a moment ago, you can pick multiple targets, but one of them has to be at the site that your pawn is located at. If another player controls the site you're on, you must target the site itself to see if you can gain control over it. You have a few different options for targets. You can target any site that the defending player rules, any relics they control, or you can choose to attack their pawn and the favor they have on their board. When picking your targets, you'll want to add up how many defense dice the other player is going to get to roll, which can be found in the upper right part of whatever you're attacking. If it's a site, you'll find it on the location card, and if you're attacking the player, you'll see that your dice on their player board. The more you choose to attack, the harder it will be to get past all of their defense dice. The 3rd step is to use battle plans on cards that you rule to give extra dice or take dice away. These are found in the knight icon. They could be red for attackers, blue for defenders, or multicolored, which count as either. Attackers will use their battle plans first, and the defenders get a chance to. The 4th step is to roll defense dice, and which I know, it kind of changes up how most games resolve attack and defense, but you'll understand why here in a moment. The defending player is going to gather up the different defense dice based on the targets being attacked, and they'll roll that many dice. So in this case, the Lush Coast has 1, and so they will roll just 1 die. This is 1 shield, so that's 1 point of defense. There's also 2 points of defense, or blank, or even a 2 times multiplier. So you'll add up that defense, and that is what the attacking player is going to have to beat or conquer. Then the attacking player rolls up their attacking dice based on the number of warbands they have. The attack dice have half swords, which are hollow, full swords, as well as 2 swords with a skull. The half swords only count as half a point, so you need 2 of them to count as 1 point of attack. The full sword counts as 1, and then the 2 swords obviously counts as 2, but you'll have to immediately sacrifice one of your warbands, so it has a bit of a consequence. You'll add up the points to see how much you can attack with to see if that's going to win. So in this case, there are 4 swords to attack versus 2 automatic points from the warbands on the defender and 1 defense dice. That means that the attacker is going to win. So, the final step then is to resolve the campaign either in victory or defeat. If you win as an attacker, you're going to kill half of the warbands that were added in the defense, rounded down. The remaining warbands go on the defending player's board, and then you get to place any number of warbands from your player board as the attacker onto locations you targeted, meaning you now rule those sites. If you targeted a relic, then you get to take that relic from the defender. And finally, if you attacked the player themselves, you get to burn half of their favor rounded down, meaning that money is gone for the rest of the game. You'll also get to move that player's pawn to any other legal site on the map. If you lose as an attacker, you don't gain anything from the campaign, and half the warbands on your player board are killed, moving back to your board. I know, Campaigning seems like a lot, but hopefully an example will help illustrate the process. You're the white exile, and you want to take this relic over here from the red exile. That's step 1, choosing the defender. Now you're at the same site as the red exile, and they control it. So that means you have to target the site itself, the mountain, in addition to targeting the relic, which is step 2, declaring targets. Step 3 is using battle plans, and this longbow's card in your advisor's row gives you an extra attack die. The defender doesn't have any battle plans. Step 4 is rolling defense. Now, the defender, the red exile, is going to get 3 total defense dice. 1 because they rule the mountain and it's being targeted, and then another 2 defense dice from the relic, the Book of Records, since that is being targeted as well. So they gather up their 3 blue defense dice and roll, and unfortunately they only get 2 defense points here. They add that to the warbands that are participating, so another 2 automatic defense to reach 4 defense total, and that's what you need to overcome to win as the attacker. So, step 5 is attacking. You'll roll based on the number of warbands plus that battle plan, the longbow. However, the mountain is pretty hard to attack, so you'll actually net a total of 5 dice here. So you roll your dice, and I apologize for the glare, but you're going to get 2 half swords, a full sword, and then a double sword with a skull. So that's 4 points, but remember you have to sacrifice one of your warbands. So 4 versus 4 is actually equal, and you're not going to win. But remember that you can sacrifice another warband to give you another attack point, meaning that you are now victorious. So finally, you resolve this victory. The defender is going to lose 1 warband, remember half rounded down, as well as the relic that you targeted. Now, you can choose however many warbands of your own to place on the site since you now have conquered it. And that's how you campaign. Warbands are how you forcefully take sites, banners, and relics, which could get you closer to winning. The 6th and final major action is to travel, which allows you to move your pawn around the map and take advantage of the different cards at the various sites available. Traveling is going to cost between 1 and 4 supply, depending on where your pawn is and where you want to move. You can move from any site to any other site, regardless if they are face up or face down. It just depends on if you have enough supply to do it. To figure out how much supply it's going to cost you, refer to the movement guide at the top of the region that you're currently in. There's going to be an icon for moving within that region, an icon for moving 1 region away, and an icon for moving to 2 regions away. For example, your pawn is currently in the Rocky Coast site in the Hinterlands, which is the region in the far right of the map, the furthest away from the Empire's reach. It will cost you 4 supply to move to a site in the Cradle, which is all the way on the left side of the map. It'll cost you 2 supply to move to a site in the Provinces region in the middle, or it'll cost you 3 supply to move to a different site here in the Hinterlands region. So we've now covered all 6 of the major actions that are available during your turn, as well as how much supply each one costs. You can search, muster, trade, recover, campaign, or travel. But, as I mentioned before, there are some minor actions that you can take on your turn that don't cost supply. And now that we have a decent frame of reference for what you can do, we can quickly look at what those minor actions are. First up, you can flip over a face-down advisor card, or you could discard it. Maybe that advisor has a power that you wanted to keep secret, or you were working toward completing a vision and wanted to surprise your opponents so that they don't have a lot of time to react. Flipping a face-down card does not cost any supply. Next, you can use an action that's listed on a card in your advisor's row, on a site you control, or on the site that your pawn is at. There's likely going to be a different cost to that action, but it's probably not going to be supply. Another minor action involves your warbands. You can pick up or drop off warbands on your site if you rule it, meaning that you already have one warband there. And finally, you can always peek at a face-down relic that's at the site your pawn is on, which gives you an idea whether that relic will help your strategy or not. You can even peek at it again later on if you're at a different site, as long as you've seen it before. Before I wrap this up, I want to touch back on how the game ends, since you should have a clear idea of what the actions are. Before I wrap this up, I wanted to touch back on how the game ends. Since you should have a clearer picture of the actions that you're going to be taking during the game, it helps to be reminded what the end goal is, what you're doing all of this for. If you are the Chancellor, you need to uphold your oath and keep the title of Oath Keeper over the course of 8 rounds. Starting at the end of round 5, if you're the Chancellor and you have the Oath Keeper title, you're going to roll a d6 to see if you win for having a stable regime. If you roll a 6, you'll win. At the end of round 6, you'll win by rolling a 5 or 6. At the end of round 7, it expands to 3 to 6, and at the end of round 8, the game automatically ends, and you'll check the War Exhaustion Win hierarchy on page 5 of the Law of Oath book to determine the winner. If you are the Exile, you can win by becoming the Oath Keeper, doing the Chancellor's job better than them, and then hold on to that title to become the Usurper. If you begin your turn as a Usurper, you'll win the game. Holding either one of these titles as the Exile will actually prevent the Chancellor from rolling during rounds 5, 6, and 7 to prematurely end the game. Otherwise, if you're the Exile, you can win by beginning your turn with a completed vision on your player board. Now, this can happen during any of the 8 rounds, but at least 3 visions need to have been drawn from the world deck before anybody can win as a visionary. And there you have it. We've now seen a bird's eye view of the game by looking at the goal and overview, as well as the win conditions, the 4 main resources that you can use, and the 6 major actions that you can take on your turn. Now, this video did not cover everything or every single rule or nuance about the game. It's honestly way too much information, especially if you've never played it before. Concepts like citizenship, bandits, and what persists from game to game with a legacy system will be picked up during your first and second game. Hopefully you now know the basics of Oath so you can get in and start playing. Thanks for watching.